If it's 11 a.m. Eastern Time, it's LinkedIn Live, Hour of Empower. The word of the day is mentor. I'm so honored and blessed to have Don Sevch. You can pronounce your name before I do.
Subsic.
Sebsik. Thank you so much. And I believe this is your lucky day out there because Don is just phenomenal at what he's doing. He's got great programs that he's running and expanding on, and really out there helping to be service oriented and helping so many people. And that's why I chose mentor as the word because I felt it aligned so well. With that said, chat's open. Feel free to direct us in the most relevant ways that we can bring value. Hopefully, you get some quality takeaways when this is all said and done. So with that, Don, why don't you share a little bit about yourself and your first thoughts on Mentor?
Sure. Thanks for having me on the show. My name's Don Subsic, and I'm probably most well known for my automated online math tutoring site called Math Celebrity. So it's kind of like a Google for math where you put your math problem in, push the button, and we will show you the step-by-step work as well as the answer. And in addition to that, I've written a couple books on SEO, LinkedIn audience, as well as mental models. So I'm really excited to be here today.
Well, that's great. And we're so excited to have you. And, mentor to me has always been so important because I've gotten so much value and benefit from mentors in the past. And, at the same time, I learned the qualities of a mentor and was able to take that into my businesses and really qualify uh, individuals that may not have been on the surface, maybe the highest potential individuals, but with a little sharing, a little learning, a little teaching, it's amazing what that can do for an organization. And that also duplicates through the organization. So, what was your first experience or important experience with a mentor?
My dad passed early when I was 13, and so I kind of lost some of that father figure or role model in my life. And for a few years, I kind of drifted. But when I went to college, I was able to find somebody that was really skilled in both baseball, but weightlifting. And so as I spent time with this person, they were a year or two ahead of me, but they were able to guide me in some things. They made mistakes when they were younger. So one of the biggest values was, hey, here's some mistakes I made when I was at your level that you may want to avoid. And so just having that person help me avoid roadblocks and slipping up was immensely valuable. But also having a person that's done it before. So one of the things I'd love to see is like in colleges, when the seniors graduate and the juniors move up, could the seniors come back and say maybe 6 months to a year and meet with the people who are going to be seniors and say, hey, as you go through your senior year, here's a couple mistakes I made that you may want to avoid. And I think that would be valuable to help them save time and get ahead faster.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think experience is the best teacher. And, I learned over time, especially in my family, the benefit of uncles, aunts, family members that in their own way would try to give you some advice that they had learned from or wanted to support you with. And I think, one doesn't have to wait for the mentor. One can pick up whoever they have that they have some respect for, trust in, and really enjoy learning from. And one thing I love about these programs is these shows will continue to be viewed forever. And I wish I had my dad or my grandfather on tape for hours and hours when they were at their prime, most relevant. And I think that's the key to mentoring is connection, is relating to the person. And that fortifies the lessons learned and the kindness in which they're given, right? So a lot of times it's not your words, it's your music that people really get attracted to. And I think being a positive influence, walking around the company encouraging people, recognizing people. You know, it all is like building a garden. We've got Renadeb here, who's here every day. Thank you for coming. It shows comments are working. I know this week LinkedIn's been notorious, not LinkedIn, but maybe Restream, with not posting comments. And sometimes there's a lag. So thank you, Renadeb. So when you look at your business, how do you use mentoring today?
One of the best quotes I've heard about mentoring is, and I'm sure you've heard it, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. But also, you'll find in the best mentor-mentee relationships, the mentor will say something like, you reminded me of myself about 5, 10, 15 years ago. So I find that when I find people that I could coach or be a mentor to, they're doing some of the things I did at a younger age,
Mhm.
but they almost need direction. So the best metaphor I could think of is the heat-seeking missile. If you're familiar with that, it's locked onto a target, but it's always got to readjust a little bit left, a little bit right, almost like a thermostat. And so when you use the thermostat metaphor, I look for people that they have the right vision almost, or the goal, but they're kind of
Mhm.
they're moving back and forth, or they're struggling off course. And my job is to just steer them, because if you look at, I'm a big fan of etymology. If you go to the Odyssey with Homer, in that book, Telemachus was the first example in literature that I know of a mentor. And really what it means is to steer and to guide. So the best mentor mentee is someone that's already kind of on the right track, but just needs that steering or guidance. And once they get that steering or guidance and have that good chemistry with the mentor mentee, the relationship flourishes.
Yeah, that's very, very sound insight. And what I see on the flip side is, what do you need to be worthy of a mentor taking the time, interest, and effort to support you? And go ahead. What's your thoughts, Don?
When I found mentors, what the biggest comment I heard was, I respected that you did some of the work and some of the thinking, instead of just coming up to somebody cold and saying, hey, I need you to teach me everything and do all this work for me. So you need to be someone as a mentee that's doing some of the work. You're writing down the problems that you're having or the observations that you see, because as the old saying goes, a problem written down is half solved.
Mm,
And so if a mentor sees you doing that effort and doing the thinking, not only does it make it easier for them to be your mentor, but it almost pulls them in, because they see here's someone that's doing the effort, they're doing the thinking, they're sort of on the right track, they just need to be steered. And so I think that's how you attract the right mentor, is you do the work, you write down the problems you're having, and then you almost, in the future, the mentor just sort of appears either in person or online or through a book.
yeah, and what you know, what I see, that people who are maybe wanting to attract a quality mentor is, from a mentor's standpoint, they've already paid the price for the lessons they're about to share. So it's an easier share than if you had to do it yourself, or they had to charge you for doing it for you, where you could learn from somebody else's experiences, success, mistakes. I always say I learned more on the way down than I learned on the way up, because you get humbled, and you start to appreciate things. On the way up, you think you're God's gift to the business world and it's always sunny. But you find out that you don't have that control that you thought you had. You know, it's easier to be on a winning team than trying to turn around a challenge team. And I think it's then that the reserve of goodwill that a mentor has provided can come back to benefit them, because of the contribution, loyalty to the person. Really, you know, the time and interest that you share with that person, that doesn't necessarily become part of the job. It's like over and above. And, you know, I always had an open door policy, right? And my door was always open. So anybody could walk in if they needed to, you know, with a little bit of, is it okay? Uh, and I always found time for them, because it never happened that much. And when it did happen, it was typically important, right? And it's better to work together than to presume without being together. With that said, just want to recognize some of the people. Elizabeth is here, wonderful lady, comes here pretty much every day and is looking to build on her uh, uh, interest, which is helping other people. Thank you so much. We've got an individual says the mentor-mentee relationship is a win-win. Each person has the opportunity to grow. Once you teach something, then you truly understand it. You know, that's so true because they say there are three elements of learning. One is learning, uh, teaching, and then teaching how to teach. You know, and when you can get to that third level, now you're influencing more people. That's why shows like this are so fundamentally important because you get to reach more relevant people in less time, in real time, with a safe environment that people can now come and have knowledge share. So it's not two with 40, it's two within the 40 to make 42, and everything is coming and going. Now we're starting to see the comments. There's always a lag. Maria's here. Wonderful to join the session today. Cheers from me and our global tech community. Kelly, who's been here for 8 months every week with me, a real anchor, has her own show, The Awesome Journey, with Christy Howard, who is here on Fridays in the past. Great, great group. Everybody who's here has gotten a show almost. Harvey just started the franchise show, just had a second show this week, and he'll be here next week with Kelly. Natalie is here. Thanks for coming. Natalie is just a great artist. Look at her post today. She put up a wonderful picture that she did. So thank you, Natalie. Renadeb comes back with a proper mentor is required for any individual to succeed in life at the quickest time. But unfortunately, many people do not get one. Well, that's a great point, Renadeb, because everybody in the past has had to be somewhat more self-sufficient, you know, more concerned with who is this and what is this. Now with what we're doing here, you get to see people before you got to get to know people. And you get to know people day by day, so you're not really too far off when something comes to mind. And I think that saying, be known before you're needed, is essential, you know? So now that the audience has really chimed in, Don, what's your new thoughts on the topic of the day?
When you're actively seeking a mentor, I find it easier or a shortcut if you got to be almost get fascinated with that person, because if you show interest, they're more likely to show interest in you. So go read their books. Have they written any papers? And here's another shortcut. Maybe they need help with something you're really good at, so you can do almost like a barter exchange. For instance, I sought out a mentor one time who was really good with business building. I was good at SEO, so that person had a blog. I said, hey, let me do your SEO for free. And if you're happy, maybe you could spend an hour with me just giving me insight into how you build businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And then that person accepted, and that led to a relationship where I talk to that person maybe once a week. And sometimes it's only for 5 or 10 minutes. But what I learn in those 5 or 10 minutes from that mentor is more valuable than 4 to 6 years in a university. And so it's little things like that. You got to pay attention to the little things, get fascinated with the details. Because for a lot of people, especially mentors, they're willing to help somebody, but they need to be either asked or they need to be approached in the right way. So if you can help that person or get interested in them, I think that'll fast track your ability to get the right mentor.
Yeah, and I've been very fortunate. I just by coincidence sitting at the dinner table next to a gentleman turned out to be a partner for 12 years and a mentor. And I think it was a combination of the two because it just was a good fit at the time. I was younger, he was older. I mean, in today's dollars, he was at least a billionaire and had huge investments. And he started with a one lumber yard. So for someone to be a self-made person, I think they understand more of what it is for someone to be coming up, or because they started with nothing, you know. And I think there's something to, and he always looked at me and used to call me a survivor, and that's why he always wanted to invest with me because we'd always figure out a way that most people wouldn't. And with enough capital and time, a lot of things can happen in a more organic, natural, pure way, where most people are under the gun, either time, money, circumstances, and they make the business adjust to it. And that's a challenge. And mentors will give you good advice. I mean, the Fred who I was with, he was so simple. It's like buy low, sell high, have a paid up inventory. I mean, just simple things that he practiced that other people didn't practice. And eventually he started aggregating lumber yards and building and everything else. But it all started with some simple, practical advice. And too many people get too excited and their plans get too expanded. And then it gets overwhelming, and then focus and all that tends to go away. So, you started somewhere, Don. What was so essential for you to continue to grow and build to where you are today?
There's certain things in my life that I'm not good at, design, even patience sometimes, although I'm getting better as I get older. And so the principle that really changed my life for getting ahead with mentors was ask who, not how. And
Hmm.
I'll say it again, who, not how. So back in the day when I struggled with building something on my math website, I could have sat for hours and fumbled around with books and poked around the internet, but sitting across from me in the cube at my day job was a brilliant programmer. And he used to build things as a hobby on the side after he got done with the day job that we worked at. And he was kind of a shy person. Not a lot of people talked to him because he was from another country. And so I checked out his website, read a few things about him, and then one day I just walked up. I knew what kind of coffee he drank, went to Starbucks, bought a coffee, and I said, "Look, I respect what you're doing. I like the way you code software, and I'm wondering maybe in the future if I had a few questions, if I could ask you how you did that, because it's something that I'm not able to do, and I respect what you're doing." And the first thing he told me was, "You're the first person to come up to me in about 2 months and actually have a conversation with me." So I wasn't expecting anything out of that, just compliment him on his ability. And about 2 days later, when we got back from the weekend, he walked up to my desk and he said, "I took a look at your website and I see what you're trying to do. Why don't we spend an hour tomorrow night after work and I'll help you out?" In that hour, I moved more than I would have moved in 6 months by myself. And it all started with, as you and I talked about before, is just a curiosity and a fascination. Like Kelly said in the comments, if you show curiosity, if you show drive, if you show your thinking on paper, but relate it to the mentor's life, it makes it so much easier to get that person interested in your life and your goals. So who, not how is a big one, but don't be selfish with who, not how. Be who can I be fascinated with and interested in, and then can they help me get the how?
Oh, that's so perfect, because I couldn't agree with it more. And I thinking back, and that's what these shows are good for. I remember getting online for the first time. I had a national specialty retail chain through the 80s. And then as we got towards the 90s, I came home one night with a newspaper ad and I gave it to my son, and he was playing with eBay, which I never even heard of. And I said, put two items on, and it was $2 each to list them. And I said, we'll split the profit. I couldn't believe we sold an item and made $5. And then let's put five on. And by 3 weeks, we we're putting 20 on. And eventually I had to take it into work, but I didn't have anybody at work who I thought knew anything about or could do it. So I ended up going to a stock person. And I said, Ollie, can you figure this out? And he says, I think so. And I got a brother who's a programmer. So, anyways, make a long story short, we became eBay's largest tool seller in our first year, and then Amazon's in our second year, top 50 website in our third year. And he became head of e-commerce. And we learned together. And he went from $10 an hour to a six-figure income in a year and a half. And it was because he just never quit. And he kept learning and kept growing and reading and sharing and coming in with new articles. And, learning fresh on a new thing is a lot better than bringing legacy information or experience. So I do believe that it's about motivation, drive. It's not what they are, but what you allow them to become. I used to always tell that anybody who worked for me, it's not what you make here, it's who you become here. Learn as much as you can, get as good as you can, because that's what you're going to depend on going forward. And it was just giving friendly advice to people that they knew was genuine, that was sincere, that was for your good, and they wanted to help you out. And there's something to being reciprocal. You tend to give what you get and get what you give, and how do you continue to layer up on it, right? How do you bring the cup of coffee and the donut next time? How do you find something nice to say that a person really feels would be appreciated? Like you say, most people are neglected. Most companies have huge amounts of resources that are never tapped. They're never opened up. They're just directed in whatever form they want. So with that, Kelly comes back again with agree. The reason my first mentor took me under his wing was due to my curiosity and drive. Good people like to do good things. Once you get past the money, it becomes a lot about integrity, accomplishment, achievement, helping others. I've had people help me and I couldn't understand why. And they said, because I can. And I've been where you are. And now I can help somebody where I was. And that was as simple as it was. It's not all transactional. It shouldn't be. Dennis, who was a great guest the other day, who not how is notable, wow to know. Dennis is our rhymer, by the way. You're a programmer too. We enjoy and learn from your daily program. Thank you, Dennis. You're a great guy. 48 years in the AC business, and just tremendous gentleman. And really, that's the character of a show is the people who support it, but also help develop and create the dialogue. Because if it was me and Don, it'd be just me and Don after a while, right? But you actually drive our thoughts and memories. So many things packed, away, that when they come to the surface, they're refreshing. They're intriguing for us too. So when we're talking, we're hearing it exactly when you are, and nothing was scripted. So Don, why don't you share a little bit about your business so people now have a little more context?
Sure. It's the business is called Math Celebrity, and it's like a Google for math. So you enter your math problem or your search term, you press the button, and in a split second, we will show you the step-by-step work as well as the answer. And last year, we helped 8.1 million parents and students get instant homework help from around the world, and it's been fun to create this, and it's been a mission in my life, and it's great to see how many people that we can help.
Well, that's outstanding, to do good and to benefit so many others. And I'm sure the ripple effect has a big influence. So what you're helping others are the same others are helping others around them. And the smarter we can become in ways that can really serve us and others makes a difference, because everything at a point comes down to time, and a certain point, cost efficiency. And what do you really focus on as your core competency? And how do you protect that time and initiative without trying to learn how SEO works or something else? And again, just like asking for a mentor, asking for a partner in certain things, is everybody sees sometimes something or somebody doing something really cool. And instead of embracing them, they say, I'll duplicate them. I'll copy it. I'll save myself from that. And really what they're doing is restraining themselves from trusting the moment or the conversation to determine, is there another reason to have an extended conversation? But it's, if you're on a talent hunt, and LinkedIn could be looked at as like LinkedIn's Got Talent. I was even thinking about a show like that, to showcase really cool, talented people doing some wonderful things. it's there. There's 970 million people. There's so few people are doing anything, and then so few people are doing anything really well or exciting, right? So why not elevate and use what's there, which is live streaming. This is YouTube Live right now. It can be on 30 other channels. So that's really what I'm focused on, is getting more shows going, more people on the stage off the audience, and really being able to tell your story in the best way possible from you directly to them, without filters, without having to ask for permission, and without taking the slow road, because time is on nobody's side. Petra's here. Great to see you, Petra. She's got Ashley Angels, does so much to help so many. Thank you. Dennis comes back with, agree, just you and another Don would be gone if you didn't continue sharing and caring. It's a community. Life is a community, and how do you participate? And how are you going to be remembered? And I think it's by what you provide others that really identifies what your impact was and what it can be. So Don, what's your experience in live streaming, and what's your thoughts of something like we're doing now on LinkedIn Live?
I think it's a great idea. It's almost like a coffee shop conversation at scale, because people get to know more than just you, but they get to know your business. Sorry, they get to know more than just you, but they get to know you, not just the business. So I found that when I just put my business out there, it was almost cold and unemotional and unpersonal. But when I started going on live streams and doing TikTok videos and YouTube shorts where I show people how to expand their mind and finish their math faster, it's similar to what I'm doing on my site, but I found the emotional reaction and the connection was much greater, like it is here. And I asked myself why, and it's because they get to know the person behind the machine, but also have a person-to-person conversation. And so there's a principle called emergence, which I'm thinking of right now. It's 1 + 1 is greater than 2. So if you think about, you take peanut butter, it's good. You take chocolate, it's good. But when you mix them together, you get a Reese's Pieces. That's more than peanut butter and chocolate. And so Don and Don talking is one thing, but Don and Don in a live stream spreading wisdom to everybody on LinkedIn, and then they can chime in and give their thoughts. It's powerful. It's almost like the mastermind principle of Think and Grow Rich in action. So it's exciting to be a part of.
Well, that's great, because you're coming up with so many similarities without knowing it, because one of our distinguished speakers is Leslie Flowers, and every Friday her show is Think and Grow Rich, and she spent 18 years learning and sharing LinkedIn, not LinkedIn, but Think and Grow Rich. And now she has a Monday show, an audio event, in addition to her live, which is Mind Over Matter on Mondays. And, I think Don makes such a perfect point, because when you're representing your business, usually you have limited time and space, right? If you put together a print piece, you can't go into who you are and what you are. You go into, here's the deal, here's the offer, here's the program, here's the details. And, it's really specific to the product or service. When you have an opportunity to sit down with people in a more casual way, and you have the time to share things about yourself in a way that's important to you, but more important to the people around you, and that duplicates it. Just like I found, once you put the first comment up, it's like a tip jar. Nobody wants to be the first one, but when they see someone doing it, and I think that's the key, is I only do things that can scale, that can be sustainable and duplicatable, because it has to eventually get bigger than you to make it more worthwhile. And I think that's where people don't always appreciate the sharing, circulating. I know there's people like Gary Vee. He says, I give everything away as soon as I get it, as soon as I learn it. And the reason being, 97% of the people will never do anything with it anyways. right? So people are afraid someone's going to take it or steal it and they have something so valuable. Everything is in motion, everything's facing dynamic change, and it's happening quicker than ever. So holding on to something is really getting it dated instead of letting it out and letting it come back with the new. And it's less lonely and it's more fun with other people. So, if no one's always worried about the cut, if not everybody's worried about who's getting more and who's getting less, but who's creating value. And also, people don't look at the better depth and richness of it is the access to people, the connectivity to people. If people are just transactional in their mindset, but want to be relationship oriented in their practice, it doesn't work. What's your thoughts on that, Don?
You bring up a great point. I mean, think about, you talked about Gary Vee and saying giving away knowledge. Here's a question for everybody. Have you ever known a happy hoarder? Have you ever known a happy hoarder? I sure haven't. So there's value in giving it away. But the second thing is you can establish connection with people as you share, right? And if you think about the most powerful brands on earth, they're not silos, right? They're movements, they're missions, they're visions. And who doesn't love that? They're magnetic. And part of the magnetism is they bring you in, they involve you in the conversation. So when you're an information silo or you're a wisdom hoarder, it repels people. And instead of being in the repellent business, wouldn't you rather be a magnet, right? Wouldn't you rather be magnetic? It's so much easier.
Yeah, and it reminds me of fishing is sometimes no matter what you have, you believe I can throw this back in and get a bigger one. And once you share it, you're acknowledging that you don't want to lock it down at that point. You may retain it, and then all of a sudden you're switching it. And I know there's a lot of companies that are just invented here type of mentalities, right? That unless it's from internal, it doesn't work, or top down, where whatever it is has to conform with whatever the philosophy or strategy of the leadership is. Versus, hey, throw the cards on a table, shuffle them up, play some new hands. You can always go back to yesterday, tomorrow, while you're trying something new today. If it's just practice or process, why not add a little signature to it? Why not challenge yourself? And knowing that you're going to meet more people that you don't know who they are or when they're going to show up, you're going to learn more information. But a lot of times when you give it up, you open up more space to get something better in return. And put it this way, if you win and someone else wins with you, does that diminish your win? If someone got a deal, someone got a bargain, right? Whatever you call it, it actually, you're going to build goodwill. And the more goodwill you build, hopefully you'll never have to tap into. But a lot of people who are selfishly unselfish want to see it keep going, right? So at a point, someone's got to pick up on it and say, hey, this is really good stuff, and this really worked. How do I earn more, not ask for more? How do I be worthy of that person? And most of my partnerships, I was always looking for something I could do in ways that they didn't care to do. I was always like, I'll fill in the gap, especially if someone was supporting me in ways I couldn't have helped them. And most of it was just respect, gratitude, honesty, integrity. If you can provide that and really be an advocate for the person, and to be, when I used to, with 12 years when I was with Fred, every month I'd fly into his headquarters, which was in Birmingham, Michigan. And I'd spend a whole week sitting in all the board rooms, right? And I didn't say a word. I was just a fly on the wall. And afterwards, we'd get together. And he'd say, so what do you think about this? What do you think about them? Because you got no skin in this game, and you've been on my side of the table. And, based on that, he would have friendly eyes and ears with them. And it was always, interesting or something. And sometimes on big deals, a little twist, a little how you better package or present it. Its detail is so important. that's where I think mentoring comes in. And eventually, you know, either friendship can turn into mentoring or mentoring can turn into friendships. And now you're starting to meet in nicer places with around more people because people like to do business with the people they like. You know, it's not always the best price or even the best service. It's who do I know there that if they're going to take care of me, right? Whenever something's an issue. Don, your thoughts?
Yeah, you bring up a great point, two great points. The first one was the zero sum game. If somebody down the street makes $1 million on a business deal, that doesn't mean $1 million has been taken away from you, right? And that's coming from a position of abundance. If you look at nature as our wisest tutor, nature has one job, it creates. It doesn't care if you like it or not. When the oak tree grows, it drops a bunch of acorns. It doesn't hoard them, it drops them. Those acorns then produce more oak trees, which produce more seeds, which produce more oak trees. It's not concerned about hoarding them or giving them away. And the second thing you bring up is about doing business with people you like. So a great story that you just jogged my memory is there's a person that I work with, and his grandfather was looking to get the pipes fixed, and so they got a quote from the plumber he usually uses was out of town for a couple days, so he called another plumber and he got some quotes. The quotes were half the price of what his regular plumber charges. Now, assuming that we looked at the ratings, they both do great jobs. This person ended up hiring their original plumber and said, I'll wait the 3 days without the toilet working for my original plumber to come back. And so my friend asked him, he charges twice what everybody else charges. Why wouldn't you just get it fixed now and save a couple $100s? And the answer he gave was, other plumbers I've hired don't ask me how my day's going. That
Mm,
was that was the linchpin, the bellwether behind choosing the plumber. Sure, they do good work, but this was somebody that was a social butterfly, and if you didn't ask how their day's going or spend 5 minutes on small talk, you would actually lose the business. And so this is a fascinating insight as we're not selling what we think we're selling a lot of the times. Like, I don't sell math tutoring, right? I don't. I sell confidence. I sell certainty. The plumber doesn't always sell a better toilet. They're selling a good experience. And so you bring up a great point. If you can sell an experience and a vision, you will attract far more people and far more money and audience than you would if you're just selling a product and being transactional.
that's so true, and reminds me of, you know, bootstrapping. Everything I did, I bootstrapped. And when you're starting with a little, you don't have a lot to lose, and you need to make things happen because you're not it where it is isn't where it can stay. And you get really innovative. Like I used to say, people would walk out the store and I'd ask for the empty box, and I'd use that empty box to put it behind a full one. And all of a sudden, my inventory, because nobody even wanted the last wrench set. It's not like a cantaloupe, you know, it was a wrench set, but a lonely whatever sitting by itself looked so bare. And it was the psychology. And you're right. I had relationships for 30, 40 years that were always kind of handshake relationships. You had a little documentation just for clarity. But what was always wonderful, if someone made a mistake that was an honest mistake, the other person would take care of them, right? I sold you this stuff. I took it off a wrong price sheet. The prices went up, you know, and anybody could say, well, here's the purchase order. Here's the signature. You know, that's the way it is. And it's like, no, I don't want that to happen. That was, you know, and what would happen? Hey, Jim, I just got a situation and you need to help me out at the company, you know. And it's like, and that made it easy because no one was keeping score. It was like, hey, we can always review things, we can always discuss things, because everybody just needed a reason. You know, if I'm going to go to the VP of sales, I got to tell them why we need to do this, right? If there's justification, I can get it done. And you know, that way is like, now you're focused on opportunity and not risk. You know, if it's always, I got to watch this guy while I'm doing this thing and depend on that person who I don't know. And familiarity builds reputation. You know, you're much comfortable, you know, knowing the devil you know versus the devil you don't is a saying. And, you know, there's a reason that you're a person. People make you happier when they come in your office. People make your staff feel good. Some people bring in donuts. Some people remember people's names. People want to be people, and the people who elevate those people. That's why I had a bowling night every month, and everybody's family, anybody. It was all bowl all you want, eat all you want. And I got to meet grandparents and uncles, and who knows, Doug is so great blah, blah, blah. But I got to know the people through other people, and that meant something. They say praise in public, criticize in private. When you've got a lot of people together and you've got something really cool to share about somebody, it lights them up. That's a memory that's rare. And that's why thinking of people, what's good for you is good for people like you. What gets you excited will get other people like you excited, but you can be the first one to do it. Simple things. When I had guests from out of town, we'd always have that little board with the little white letters, and welcome Mr. Thomas from ABC Company. Glad to have you. I mean, it's a little thing, took about 20 seconds to display it. But what did it mean? You were thinking of them, right? You did something for them that you didn't have to do. And that kind of sets the stage. Here's Dennis that comes back with, thanks for asking. Just got out of my weekly BNI Business Networking Institute, and Be Not Invisible is my interpretation. Maria comes back. The value of human connection in business is underestimated. They say you can make a lot of money two ways: other people's money, other people's time. And when you don't have money, it's other people. And, hiring my first person was difficult. But I also knew I did everything they were about to do, right? And if you do what other people do, you relate to, hey, I know what this job is involved. It's a lot of time, a lot of trouble, a lot of this, a lot of that. And then I actually made it a habit of overpaying above market rate. And I had such great retention, so little shrinkage. If you just think people are things, how cheap, they say the most expensive thing a business has is cheap labor, right? Because how much hiring, how much interviewing, how much training, how much retention, how much promotion. And then, it's like, put it out and see, what it does. So Don, we're getting a great audience today. This is really cool how we're taking mentoring to a much higher level.
Yeah, it's exciting. And when you were talking about the value of human connection, and I see it, Maria's comment too, you just jogged my memory. I was listening to a podcast about real estate the other day, and at one of the big real estate firms, one of the agents was outselling everybody else by about 4-1. And so finally somebody came in and asked them, I think it was like a rookie real estate agent, what are you doing differently here? And so the person said, well, you could spend a day or two with me and see. And he realized that the other real estate agents were well dressed. They could hold a conversation. But what the one real estate agent did that outsold everybody else 4-1 was, when he found somebody that was interested in the house, he would get their favorite newspaper, favorite magazines, go get their favorite movie or meal catered, and invite them, why don't you stay in this house tonight and see if you like it? And that person's close rate, I think, was 90%. And the reason why it worked is because he's making it real, right? It's a human connection of, you could come into a new house and like it, but you can't imagine living in it. But this person made it real by inviting them, going to get their favorite meals, their newspapers, magazines, the furniture arranged how they want. And so the rookie went back and said, this is fascinating. And he asked the other real estate agents, why don't you do this? This works. This is human connection. And the comment was, well, that's not really my personality or my style. But that really wasn't the point. The point was human connection. And so here you had a mentor showing you how to make human connection and sell, and you ignored it. So fascinating story that relates to what we're talking about and shows the power of human connection.
Absolutely. And everybody has so much time. I used to ask people, well, would you like to do this? I don't have enough time. I'd say, well, how much time don't you have? It's really what you're doing with it. And if you're looking at relationships, and those opportunities, they're supposed to be longer term. So why not invest the first 5 minutes in making a friend, getting to know somebody versus, spaghetti against a wall? How many can you reach? How many can you close? How many can you do this? And, to some people that appeals possibly to them. And with 970 million people just on LinkedIn, there should be that group. But to settle for less is settling for less for everybody, because my company at one time grew to 72 people under one roof, on payroll, let alone the outside contractors. And with that much expense, but also that much horsepower, the key was innovation. The key was ideas. And it wasn't like how many hours did you put in? It's really what are we learning from this? What are we sharing among ourselves? That's another thing I see as a possibility for LinkedIn Lives, is internal LinkedIn Lives, where you can get 40 developers together an hour a week and have what's best practices going on. It's really, communication is key. And in the past, it's been physical in order to do it. Go to a conference, go to a trade show, meet at Starbucks, go into somebody's office, meet them, whatever. It's one-on-one, and it's you with time. But if you can get 50 people in an hour to really share knowledge with 50 other people, and if everybody incrementally gets a little bit better every day, it's a lot easier than if it's like, it's a buffet, grab all you can, you're not going to get it again for a while. And slowing time down to let things develop organically, and knowing it's not time. And too many people take too much out of the oven that's half baked, and it never gets any better from there. So, a mentor will kind of explain perspective, time frame. Too many people beat themselves up. They're only in the first inning. If someone knew this is a 6-month or a 9-month project to get to a result, then everybody can track to that, and that's the key, is you got to have a goal. To Don's point, written means something because you have to look at it. Thought can be dissipated pretty quickly, or replaced, or justified. But when you write it down, you actually took an action towards it, and it's staring at you, right? And you can change it. There's nothing, I think that's only natural. But the thing is are you serious? How much persistence are you willing to have? Because it's not easy. It's not the fastest. It's not the smartest. It's not the best. It's the ones who will persevere, who will adjust as they have to, but don't have any quit in them because their belief is so strong, or the importance of what they're going for is vital to them, right? Walking away from it is not an option. So Don, I'm sure you've had to persevere through many new challenges that came your way.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about time horizons. So a good mentor will help you expand your time horizons. Too many people are trying to do everything in the next few minutes or hours, but a good question to ask is, what would I do, or how would I handle this if I could take time out of it? See, if you adopt the principle of Kaizen, which for people that don't know, loosely translated in Japanese, it means continuous improvement. If you were to take any new skill or new venture that you want to go on, and let's say you start at zero and you know nothing, if you were to get 1% better every day, it does not sound like much. So an example of this is, I was reading a story about a woman who struggled with weight problems, and all the dietitians and trainers just didn't work out for her. Finally, she met somebody who was into the Kaizen discipline, and the trainer told her the first day, when you get up this morning, just get your gym shoes out of the closet and put them in your gym bag. And she looked at him like he had two heads, and he said, just try it. So she did. And then next day he said, get your gym shoes out of the closet, put them in your gym bag, and then go get your water bottle and fill that up. And so she asked him, how is this going to help me lose weight or work out? This makes zero sense. And he said, just put your trust in me for about 2 weeks. So third day, gym shoes, water bottle, and workout gear. By day 8, she's at the gym signing the papers to do a new gym license. By day 14, she's on the treadmill doing 3 minutes. At the end of the month, she lost 5 pounds. And finally, she said, "Now I get it. I was trying to do too much in too little time." When you expand your time horizons, you can get a lot more done. So back to Kaizen, if you were to improve 1% every day, it doesn't sound like much, but after 365 days, you would be 37 times better at whatever skill or venture you went after than you would on day 0. So this works just like compound interest. If you make little gains every day and you embrace momentum, it's incredibly attractive and persuasive. And I think mentors are drawn to that. If they see somebody that's making those little gains every day, it makes it that much easier for them to help you make even bigger gains.
Yeah, I mean, and I learned so much. I was part of organizations in the 90s and late 80s that, Jim Rohn was part of, Brian Tracy, Og Mandino, Nito Quabain, I mean, Roger Dawson, the best of the best. And I'd get with them probably in Dallas every 2 months. There'd be a get together, and it was a 24-hour satellite channel with nothing but personal development, and all these people were had their shows, and I remember Jim Rohn said, people give somebody a book and say, if you get a chance, read it. But if you said, hey, just read 1 page a day, you can do that. And someone will take that book, and after 3 pages of reading, they think, well, why not read 4 pages? And before you know it, you're reading 3, 4 good books a year. And they always said, if you want to know who somebody is, ask them what they're reading. And that'll tell you who you're working with. And it's really, again, not more time, but more understanding of time. And even in business, I always told everyone, make a friend, then make a sale if you want, but at least you'll have a friend, and at least people will know us as being friendly, and that's important, because too many people look at the final result, ignore the journey along the way. And why not give yourself more time to test, to qualify? Why solve a puzzle before you bought the vowels? But before we go much further, let's go back to, got a lot more people. Petra comes back with, Dennis, wonderful, I agree. Invisibility is not a good thing. I'm an extrovert, will always have something to say. Beverly, I can't say enough about Beverly. Has been with us every Tuesday as our host, great therapist, and supporter of so many opportunities. Good morning. Never settle for less. I closed my office since COVID and never look back. Keep pivoting. And it's people like Beverly, people like Don, who validate what you're doing, what you're thinking, because they're doing it and thinking it too. But so take what's there and believe in it. Business is inherently personal. Companies are made up of people who aren't interested in one-size-fits-all approaches. No one wants to feel like a spoke in a wheel, which is why taking a personal approach in business often leads to better performance. You learn by trying. There is no failure, only feedback. Getting to know the person instead of outside chatter is the only way to find out that the real life person. Why not? Ask and you'll learn. I mean, and if you don't ask, you're going to be challenging yourself and playing this, assumption game or presumption game, and they're playing it the same way, and everybody's kind of missing out on the fun. Getting to know the person instead of okay, great. Okay, Petra says mentoring individuals is a wonderful way to see how a person can turn into a beautiful butterfly. So true. Linda's here today. Linda's just great. Been in and out today, but great topic. I love seeing someone willing to change, even if it's a little at a time. And it's great to find others stepping out to share and help others grow, as we both can learn in the moment. And Dennis brings it all up. Thank you, Petra. So, this show goes so fast based on the audience interaction and really raising our awareness level to the point of really getting more aligned in ways we could have never scripted or prepared for. And, if everybody's having fun is easier to have. right? And that whole saying, it's lonely at the top, it is. The last thing I would have ever want to do is get to the top by myself, based on being on the shoulders of so many people. Is, if it's good for you, like I say, it's good for other people. And if you've done it once, it's even easier to do it a second time, right? And sometimes some people need it faster than you do for reasons maybe you don't need. And that's where I've seen people who continue to make money because they got involved with foundations or causes that were dear to them. If it was just buying another boat or another car, it wouldn't have justified getting up and doing something. So anytime you can get with people as a mentor, the gratification, one thing looking back at my 37 years in business, is all the superstars that came out of it. People I hired when they were 19, 20, 21. Now they're 40 and they're international in this way, or very successful in that way. And I know I had something to do with them, but I also know they had something to do with me. So we both ratcheted up together. It wasn't like I gave, they got, and everybody's happy. They made it worthwhile because, just like I always had a program, if someone was in trouble, I would just personally lend them the money. They needed a plane ticket here or they needed something for there. And I always got paid back. But it was really the knowledge that someone had that at 2 a.m, I know I can call somebody, whether they ever did or not. But it was putting that open door policy and putting the red carpet and treating everybody equally as a person, and I think everybody likes those environments because everybody's been where other people have been. And I think that's important. Maria comes back with folks stop using the word failure, use unsuccessful attempt. It's all how you think is how you're going to do. Time is finite. You need to set your priorities. Ask yourself, are you controlling your world or is your world controlling you? Mentorship keeps you on track. So true, Beverly. And Petra I agree with you, that word should be torn out of the thesaurus. Last one before we get back to Don. Great conversation. Natalie says, when you're ready to learn, the right teachers show up. Now you're taking what they taught you and adding your own special touch to make something unique. It's like mixing colors on a canvas. Keep painting your story. So great, Natalie. Thank you for that. Well, we're coming up on top of the hour. So what's your final thoughts on Mentor and what you thought about being on the show and everything about it?
I had a great time being on the show, and I was just looking at some of the comments and what you talked about with failure. And I think the best principle I've ever heard to make it less stressful when you're trying to find a mentor or even move up in businesses, there's an old Buddhist principle that goes something like this: you have a right to the action, but you do not have a right to the fruit of the action or the result. So if you detach from the need to have somebody respond or a result, so we're talking about mentorship. If I'm looking for a mentor, I have a right to take the action. I can compliment the person on their book. I can ask them for help. I can reach out to them on social media, but I detach from the result. Maybe they say yes, maybe they say no. But if I keep creating, if I keep getting better, if I keep finding better ways to ask, eventually I'll find the right spot that I need to be in life.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's all of that has been based on experience, knowledge received from other people. And, I think that's the reward. Is most people think of giving as giving something up instead of giving something to someone that you're glad to do. I mean, just like saying hello to someone you pass in the park or good morning. It's the same walk, doesn't slow you down, just means you're moving more parts of your body, which might be your mouth and your thoughts towards the person. But, when you can lose yourself in somebody else, you don't start to think about yourself as much. You don't worry about what you have, what you don't have, who has more. I mean, when you get into those mind games, it's time to take a break. And I think that's the key, is knowing your limit, whether it's through mentoring, knowing your limit towards mentoring yourself. And that's always comes down to, how good a friend are you to yourself? How good of a teacher? How many days off do you give yourself to take a break? I mean, and I think that's important is what you do for yourself is a lot to do with what you're going to do for other people, right? Because most people would say, I can, if they come and say, I can help you, they could say, what did it do for you? You know, and that's why even the things I do is like, I only share what I have done and share the results that I get from what I've done. You know, if it's good for you, but I don't need it, then maybe it's not that good for me. And why don't you need it? How many coaches don't have a coach? How many mentors don't have a mentor? And is that authentic? And does that pass the test? And why not? Right? You chose. You could choose anything to represent and to promote. Why choose something that isn't something you're part of? You know, do you buy things you don't use, sell things you don't buy? And I think when people can get aligned with themselves and start cleaning out their closet and saying, how do I bring the best me to the table every day and make everybody better for it? Because either out of guilt or gratitude, people will return it if it has value, because it's rare to get that type of value. So with that said, want to thank Don, want to thank the audience again. You make it so worthwhile. And I learned so much. And doing this almost 400 days in a row, if you learn again a little bit from anyone about anything, and it compounds, everything starts getting pushed out that doesn't fit naturally, and everything starts getting integrated that does. And now you're not focused on me making the change. It's really leaning into the audience as a buffing wheel, you know, and having them come back and say, you know, and straighten things out, open things up. And also the knowledge that there's someone there for you. When I was mentoring people, I enjoyed the time. You know, I helped out at the community college here, and, you know, business students, and we get the semester with them and maybe a project. And it was just cool to see them grow in confidence, you know, change in the way people looked at them. And, you know, everything is belief. You know, they say faith is the belief in the invisible, you know, and when you know you can do it, but it's going to take time. Last thing I'll say is there are no outcomes. Everything's a continuum, right? If you don't do it today, tomorrow's going to show up. What are you going to do then? Right? And, you know, and who wants to not pursue the journey? And I think, you know, I always was a believer, if I bought a ticket for a show, I got to see the end just to know how it worked out, you know, and I think that's what people should really focus on. So thank you again before I bring up another subject. And with that said, come back tomorrow. Leslie Flowers will be here. Sunday, we got Sarah Dawkins, who's been here every Sunday for like 8 months also, from Spain. Just a wonderful person. And next week, we just got some more great guests. So I can't thank Don enough. He really exemplifies the best of the best on LinkedIn. And so proud and honored to have him. So with that